everyone, thanks for watching laurieWIRED. So in the last video, we were taking a look at our Android banking Trojan, and we noticed that it was actually performing some dynamic code loading via DexClassLoader. So we tried to use the Medusa framework to have the sample unpack itself, but we weren't successful in actually triggering the unpacking portion of the code. So in this tutorial, we're going to look at the rest of the code that came before that dynamic loading code call. And we're going to see what we have to do to get that code to trigger itself. And if we can't, then we'll have to go through and try and see if we can write a custom script to unpack the sample ourselves. So I'm going to go back to JDex, and I'm just going to start picking up where we left off. So we were looking at this JSON object that was being passed to the method that was called from this malware load dynamic dex right here that had our DexClassLoader call inside of it. So let's just start working backwards and seeing where this code might not actually let us get to the payload. Okay, so inside of this method, it was creating the new file if it didn't exist. Additionally, before that, if not new file, it looks like it was calling a couple other methods that might be writing this file to disk before it's calling its code loading method. So let's see what's happening up here. I'm curious. I labeled this class, and this was this .a, which was that class. And let's just kind of get an idea of, in general, what this class is doing so that we can get it a better name than class A. So I'm going to just start scrolling down and kind of see what's going on. It's got a lot of our string encoder. Looks like this class has a lot going on. So it's registering a receiver here. So this must be our receiver class. Let's see. Okay. No, this is an intent filter. Let me see what this is. Just out of curiosity. Oh, okay. So it's looking for battery changed. So let me write that right here. Malware string battery changed. So it looks like we have an intent filter that's waiting for the battery state to be changed. So maybe it's going into low power mode or something like that. And then that will trigger if this intent is received. Okay, so that's our battery changed intent filter that our receiver is listening for. And let's see, it's adding a couple of ints that this receiver is listening for, registering this receiver. Okay. I'm not going to focus too much on this since I'm just trying to get a general idea of what this class is for, but looks like it might be doing a lot of different things, so we can't really give it a good name, I don't think. Doing some telephony manager calls, maybe checking to see what the country is. Some malware will actually check the country of the device and not run its payload if it's located in a particular country, which is really interesting. Maybe that's what's going on here. I'm going to keep scrolling down. Actually, this also contains our DexClassLoader call as well. And this is interesting. Okay. Something to do with injection? What is this? Okay. This is more editing shared preference. Looks like malware edit shared prefs, and this is, I think, the second method that was doing that. So I'll just name it that. Okay. It looks like it's editing a lot of different preferences here. Checking to see the device policy. Okay. Also, it's manipulating the audio of this as well. Interesting. Anyway, and ooh, a new file output stream. That looks really interesting. Actually, that might be where our file is getting written to disk, I think. Yes, the system.apk. I'm gonna guess that this is going to be the file that we're actually loading our code from. So if we can't get the application to unpack itself, then we probably should come back over here and see if we can manually decode this with a script. Okay. I think I'm gonna move on because I'm not really getting a good name from this. This is just doing a lot of different potentially bad things. Yeah, okay. All right, so this seems to be our main working class where we're doing a lot of different stuff. So I'm actually just gonna call this malware main work. Okay, and let me actually go back. Here we go. Let's go back to our other service where this was getting called. Okay. And we renamed that. And then here is our class. Actually, I'm going to rename this class because it is a class, so I will use capitalization. So there's the class definition and then the object that we're actually creating from this class. Okay. We'll start scooching backwards in this. Looks like this doesn't really matter. This is changing the device policy manager. So let me see exactly what this does. Okay. Okay, just gives you unique policies on a device. Oh, that's actually really interesting. It gives you the possibility of locking the screen, wiping and encrypting data. Well, that is really interesting. Okay. But it's going to hit no matter what in this code. So this if statement isn't dependent upon this if statement. So it's just kind of interesting to note that this is allowing a remote active admin. So that's very interesting. Creating a new component from it. I'm very curious. Okay. Doesn't look like this has any implementation, but it does extend the device admin receiver class. I think if we go back to, let me go back, our manifest and we take this class, let me see, Control F. This should also be, yes, so here in the metadata, it's also defining the XML resource that goes along with this particular device admin receiver. So if I want to find that and just look at that, I can go over to, where's our XML and our resources, XML. You see THM, so it's going to be thm.xml. And so it uses policies, force lock, and wipe data. So it looks like this particular device admin gives it the ability to force lock the device and wipe its data. So that's just a note of interest to look at this. Let me go back. We're not worried about this. Okay, let's see, we have our try. To me, I think this should be running. Let me see, so this if statement, unless we're hitting an exception somewhere. We have our try here. Yeah, but this is just while true, so it's gonna do all of this stuff at the top, and then this if else should run right here. So that makes me think that maybe that file didn't exist, and so we're ending up inside of this statement right here. So what's this gonna do if we don't hit this else? Out of curiosity. Let me rename that. Malware main work class. Doing more editing of the shared preferences. Not really anything interesting. So I wonder when we're actually writing the file. Because to me, it's gonna hit this if we haven't written the file, but that means that we should probably have a file call to write our payload before here, so maybe that's not getting triggered. So what I'm gonna do, I think, is I'm going to search where we're actually writing the file and work backwards from there to see where that's called. Let me go to my main work class, and we had our file output stream. So actually, I'm gonna do navigation search. Let's see where we're doing file output stream. And it looks like it's all inside of this main work class right here, so that has to be our payload. That has to be where it's getting written. Okay. All right, let's look. Where was our write call? Okay, there's our write. Okay. Decode. And it's decoding some bytes. And it's writing that to a new file, and that new file is going to be malware string apk system.apk. So let's see, this is going to be name malware write payload. I'm going to do X to get cross references. Well, that's interesting. We don't have any cross references. Well, that might be why it's not getting written. Okay, so maybe this isn't even getting called. That makes me really intrigued right now, but this could be some dead code that they just threw in to confuse us. So I think what I'm gonna do is I'm actually just gonna start from the top, which I wouldn't normally do in a file because it's kind of time consuming. But I want to see if the malicious behavior is happening anywhere early on in here. Let me see. Let's go to our onCreate. So this DOG right here was our entry point. So this was our main. So let me just start from the onCreate method in here and see what's happening. So this was our malware class A. What's this? I think we renamed that. Okay, yes, we renamed that. So let me rename that malware main work class. Okay, I'm not gonna worry about anything to do with the display or point or anything like that. Display, I don't care. Main work 2. So this is just still another pointer to our class. Where is this getting used? This is another editing of the shared preferences. I'll keep going. That's our class name. And out of curiosity, I wonder what this is doing. So we're passing in the name of our class, then another string, HE. So this right here. Let's paste that in and see. Initialization start to, okay. I think that's just a debug statement. We'll add a comment of the actual string. This is probably a logger or something. That was let me rename that so I can find it. Name malware really log. Maybe log. Where was the declaration of that? Come on, JDex. Let's see. There it is. Okay, perfect. Yeah, so this is just log. So this is calling the logger class, and it's logging the strings that we pass it. So we'll name that malware log strings. Okay, let's go back. Oops. And it's passing this to this I. Here we go. And this is just calling our malware edit shared props. Not much interesting, honestly. I'm going to ignore the exception and assume that we're not hitting that. And then we're calling our main work and calling the A method and passing it, let's see what this is. The empty string, okay. Empty string. And what is this doing? This A right here. Okay, basically trying to see if we've enabled accessibility services. Okay. Cool, so that's just malware. Check enabled accessibility services. So that's if we have allowed that accessibility service to be enabled, and it's checking that right here. It had a custom accessibility service, so that's probably checking if that's been allowed to run, because it actually requires input permission from the user. Okay, and actually I think we named the wrong method. Let's just name this temp, so we can find it. Temp, there it is. Okay, actually, this is getting the alarm service, new intent, and setting the action as the string that's being passed to it, and creating a new alarm manager, and setting it repeating based off of this broadcast. Okay. What is this? This is our broadcast receiver class. Oh, okay. This has a lot going on. I'm just gonna call this broadcast receiver class. And creating a new intent that's going to trigger this broadcast receiver class to run. I'll name this trigger broadcast. receiver. And it's also setting an alarm, but I won't bother adding that. One more back. Here we go. Okay. And we get over here to B. This is our intent service class one more time. And it's passing this as a parameter over to the main work class B method. So we'll do B. I think this is just, oops, we're checking if the service is running. I think I lost my class. Main work class B. Where's our declaration? There it is. Okay. Get system service. What is the system service it's looking for? It doesn't want to resolve. Looks like this is, let me see, doing some weird go-to statements. That was strange. Looks like it didn't decompile properly for a second. Okay, so this is going to be, let me see. Check running service info. So it's checking to see if that service is running. And it's checking to see if our intent service is running or not. And if not, it's starting the service. Okay. And if that fails, then it's going to do this exception code. But that's pretty much it from our onCreate method. Nothing too interesting here. We're just looking at some points on the device, something to do with the I'm not too worried about that. Editing some shared preferences, logging a couple strings, triggering our broadcast receiver, and nothing really interesting. It looks like it really should be starting this intent service. So I don't think any issues there. So I'm going to go through, and if we start this service, let's start looking at that code that gets triggered and see what's going on here. So remember, our onHandleIntent is going to be called when we start this intent service. Okay. I'm just going to name these constants so they're obvious. Malware int 0. We'll call this malware int 1000. Name malware int 6. And that will be a little easier to read. So we get our intent service triggered. While true, this dot A, let's see what this is. Let me rename this temporarily. Temp. Let's look for temp. Oh, okay, looks like it's sleeping. That might be interesting. So this is gonna be malware sleep. Let's see what it's sleeping. And then this is going to be the time in milliseconds that it's passing. So it's going to be, if we go back, sleeping for 1 second. So that's 1,000 milliseconds. So while true, this dot sleep. I'm going to try to edit our shared preferences. Log a couple strings. Let's just see what this string is because I'm curious. Okay, tick. So this actually might be some kind of anti-debug thing. What string was this? ALF, okay. Let's name this string tick. Well, this is getting a little bit more interesting. So it might be using the tick count to see if we're running inside of a debugger, and it might not unpack itself if we are. So that might be why it didn't actually call the payload. So interesting. I don't know. Let's see. Tick. And then int, and it's logging that. If not, check accessibility services enabled. Then it's going to try and see if our accessibility class is working. And main work class.e. What's this? E. There it is. Okay. Get system service. What's that? Keyguard. So it's checking to see if the Keyguard service is enabled, looks like. Okay. Check Keyguard. If edit shared preferences equals this QA, let's see what this QA is. One. Okay, that's fun. Easy enough. Okay, just checking to see that. Not too worried. If that's the case, start service. This was our toast service pop-up. Toast service make text. So if that service, I'm gonna guess if that's not running or something, then it's gonna pop up this toaster. So what is this toaster gonna be popping up? I'm curious. On start command, let's see, toast make text. I'm gonna see what is the text we're trying to make right now. Ah, this is our string encoder class. So this is gonna be our text, malware, string encode class. And what's this? YC right here. I don't think that. That's interesting. Did I type that right? Yep, okay. It's apparently empty. Empty. Okay. And then we have, scooch this over so we can see AA. What's this? Okay. I think that was the name of the app and also the pop-up of the accessibility services that we saw. This is going to be fun to fix. I'm going to actually just call this, I'll just remove most of this. I'll just call it this, because it's not going to let me type all these special characters. So that was our toast pop-up. And then it's showing that text. Looks like we missed some text. This might be the actual text we're showing. Okay, call this malware main work so I can remember what this is. Calling the A method. A. Okay, and oh, this is a JSON object. I like this. And it's getting the local language of the device. Okay, and it's returning that as a JSON object. So I'm gonna call this malware return JSON. And what was that name? I think it was XE. Yes, it was this. Okay, we got two. Malware decode string. Okay, let me just copy this whole thing. This is a lot. This is getting exciting. Okay. This is printing a lot. This is my whole JSON object right here. What is this? How do I copy this whole thing? Let's put this over in Notepad++ and see what this is doing. Interesting. Maybe I'll come back to this. So that was returning my JSON object. Oops. I'm just gonna label it that for now until I figure out what it is. Interesting. So it's popping up that JSON string as a toast object. Otherwise it's returning that one. What is the exception here? Out of curiosity. And that was, let me just do this. Enable, okay. Okay, so we're returning that JSON object and it looks like we're popping it up to the screen. But I do remember, oops, when we tried running this application, we saw this page pop up. So I'm curious if that's related to this. Let's see, that was in the toast service right here. Okay, so then it's showing that text. Where was our toast class getting called from? Right here, okay. Okay, so we have that, and that's going to be a toast pop-up. And then we're going to start a new activity, looks like. So this new intent, we're passing it a couple flags, but this class. So this is the activity we're starting. Let's find our onCreate. And this looks like it's going to be setting a new web client. Oh, that's really interesting. Okay. Let's see what this is writing. String and code class. Let's see what this is. This is our string and code class. Malware string and code class. Setting JavaScript enabled, okay. So this might be our accessibility page that we saw before. Okay. So that's very interesting. I think this might be the HTML page that we saw. So we're probably going to find the string somewhere inside of here that was displayed to us, the one that was trying to get us to enable the accessibility settings. So I think that we'll stop here, and in the next video we'll try and get a hold of that HTML page, and we'll see if we can locate where that was getting called so we can take a look at it. So thanks so much for watching laurieWIRED. In this video, we went on kind of a wild goose chase and found that our APK method that was supposed to be writing our APK to disk isn't actually getting called. So we'll try and figure out in the next video whether that was some dead code that we can ignore, or if it's getting called some other way and getting written to disk somewhere else. So in the next video, we'll also take a look at the HTML page that looks like it's getting generated by our WebView object. So thanks so much for watching laurieWIRED, and I'll catch you in the next video.